Hello and welcome. I'm Laura Bithell, editor of the Money Moves Hub, produced by Raconteur and Visa Direct. In this series, we look at how payment systems are evolving to keep up with modern demands. Today, we'll be delving into cross-border payments. These transactions, where the payer and recipient are based in different countries, are growing in economic importance. But getting the systems in place to enable simple and efficient cross-border payments can be challenging. I'm delighted to be joined by Sean Pitman, Head of Product Strategy and Commercialisation at Visa Direct Europe, to talk about how customer expectations, business needs, and innovation in the financial services sector are shaping the future of international money movement. Hi Sean, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So there are more opportunities for businesses internationally than ever. How have you seen kind of the increasing globalization of business, including perhaps more recent trends toward remote workforces, impact the payment systems?
Well, it's been I think the pandemic really accelerated remote work, and we see that that's allowed businesses to particularly hire international staff far more than they used to. I think that it's increased sort of fourfold in the last few years, the number of businesses moving into that space. Mm-hmm. But with hiring staff internationally, obviously you've got to pay them cross-border, and that comes with a lot of complexity. You know, particularly when the people may come from emerging economies, may have less, just less disposable income or financial buffer. They need to be paid on time. They need to be paid in real time. So I think that kind of change has really helped drive the growth and the development of real-time money movement.
Sure, and you said something there about the challenges and some of the difficulties associated with cross-border payments. So what are some of those pitfalls that organisations could perhaps fall into?
I think traditionally the cross-border payments have been difficult because they're much more expensive than domestic transactions. So and particularly because there's an FX component that adds uncertainty for both the sender and the receiver. Sometimes neither party knows who's at risk if the foreign exchange moves. In addition, they take a long time. They can take a long time, a number of days historically, and you don't know when the money's going to arrive. So you go and you send the money, and you sort of cross your fingers and hope that it's going to arrive in time for the reason you sent it. And then just basically lack of transparency. You can't go and check with anyone where the money is in the system. So when it hasn't arrived in a couple of days, you've got no one to speak to confirm. So to confirm where it is or when it's going to arrive. And it really adds a lot of, concern and worry for the people sending the money, because sometimes they're sending large amounts and it's just in the ether for a few days.
Sure.
Yeah.
So how then have kind of innovations in payments technology, including obviously real-time cross-border payments, address those kind of challenges and open up opportunities for business? And perhaps could you give me an example there of how it might kind of all play in?
Sure. I guess if you think about it in terms of a real example, imagine you have a t-shirt supplier in the UK, and they might source their t-shirts now. They can easily source their t-shirts from abroad. Let's say they're buying it from a warehouse in Vietnam. In the past, they would have had to create the invoice. They'd have to send the payment probably up front for a bit large order. Have to wait for the money to arrive, and then only after that the merchant or the provider at the warehouse which has the t-shirts would pay their own suppliers, source their own materials, produce the stock. So there's a big delay between making the order and receiving. Now, with real-time payments, they can make the payment sort of, immediately. The person providing it has the security, comfort that they've got the money, and everything can be moved much more quickly. And it's not just in payments. I mean, just the cross-border in general. In terms of, for example, your online website that needs to be maintained by somebody. So we see it more and more. People are going out to people in other countries to support them in that, or stock inventory software might be supplied by a software supplier in another country. They then need to also be paid with cross-border payments. So the whole industry seems to be moving in this way.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually about some of those use cases that are maybe kind of to do a lot with the modern world. So,
Sure.
Obviously including, services from abroad, but also things like content creation and that kind of thing. So what kind of use cases are you seeing there that have changed and that real-time payments really help with cross-border?
Yeah, I mean, I think content creation is a really good one. So, with the likes of, YouTube, TikTok, you've got people all around the world now posting on those platforms, and, there's ads, they need to be paid, they get tips, etc. So the platform might be created in one country, whether it's US or China, and the people are sitting in all around the world posting content to those platforms. So when they need to draw down the funds that they've earned, it's a cross-border payment. So this is a really big growth area we're seeing, and we see it's a real advantage. So I think the content creators shop around for the platforms that allow them to receive their money as quickly as possible. I think in general, sort of the marketplace world, so the Amazons.
Like online marketplaces, yeah.
Exactly. The online marketplaces, they have people selling their wares from all over the world. Again, once the payment's been received by the marketplace, they've got to be paid out to that individual small business. And again, that's a cross-border payment. And small businesses, again, liquidity is key.
Yeah.
And they want to be able to get their money as quickly as possible.
And what would you say is probably the biggest use case for Visa Direct in terms of cross-border payments? Is it one of those, or is it something else?
I think the biggest use case for us would be remittances, for sure. It's a huge growth area. And, historically remittances were people getting on a bus with a bag full of cash and taking it cross-border. That still happens, and there's still a big amount of that, but there's been a huge increase in the amount of digital payments in the remittance space. So digital payments has really helped accelerate remittances, and we've seen things like digital wallets rise in countries which are traditionally unbanked, or in regions that are unbanked, or underbanked. Regions like Africa and Asia, there's a huge rise in digital wallets, and so now it's easier than ever for someone somewhere in Europe to send money to their family back home with a push of a button, and the money arrives on their mobile wallet.
So how then can different sort of institutions within the financial services sector work together with payment providers, financial institutions and businesses to kind of make international transactions smoother and more efficient? Is there a bit of an ecosystem there?
There definitely is. I mean, there's a lot of players in the system, and they all need to talk to each other, and there's a lot of specialization in terms of payment method, payment type. What's really important is that the end customer doesn't perceive this fragmentation, and they have a good experience. And by and large, that's what we see. I think that's supported by by sort of new API technologies, where a provider allows other people to use their software through seamless integration, and then the end customer then has the end customer benefits, because then they can go to a single super app, let's say, and have a choice of payment methods provided by a whole range of providers in the background. But for them, it's a seamless experience. They can choose what is important to them and make the payment at that time.
And in terms of kind of that crystal ball gazing question, what does the future of the cross-border payment space kind of look like, do you think?
I think it's a good news story for consumers. I think the price is going to continue to come down. With the additional payment methods coming on board, there is one direction in price, and it's going to follow a similar trajectory that we've already seen in the domestic payment space, where prices have dropped to incredibly low levels. The other sort of trends around blockchain and AI, I think they're going to continue to grow. They're here now already. They're not yet quite mainstream, but they are on that way. I think they offer something that people really like in security and transparency. There is a scalability question that needs to be answered, but certainly those are other areas that are going to continue to we're going to be at the forefront of.
Yeah, that's really interesting. As you say, I think as people get more used to these technologies, they're probably only going to become more mainstream, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, I think that's a really great place to kind of wrap up. But thank you so much for joining us today, Sean. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks very much for having me.
For more information about the future of payments, go to the Money Moves Hub at raconteur.net.